Hi, I'm Mel, and this is a tutorial for split coast stampers on a technique called traced doodling. And forgive any technical difficulties, this is my very first video, and I'm filming outside for the light, so you'll hear the neighbor chopping wood and the birds. So this technique is really so easy, you could barely call it a technique. It's basically stamping a very light image and using pencils and different colored medium to doodle, tracing around the image. So all you need is a stamp, some light colored ink, and some paper to stamp on, any kind of colored pencils you like, a regular lead pencil. I like a mechanical pencil because it stays sharp through the whole process and your lines remain fairly consistent. But if you're worried about smudging, you can use something like a Prismacolor colored pencil that's wax-based and it won't smudge with your hand or when you give the card away. You can also, of course, use a permanent marker, and then you could color with Copics, whichever it is, and the possibilities are endless. So to get started, I have already stamped, but you would ink up your stamp and stamp your image, and as you can see, you don't need a perfect image because you're just going to be tracing with pencil and altering the image anyway. So I find to get smoother lines, and they don't need to be perfect because we're doodling, but to get smoother lines, I like to rest my hand on the surface where I am working, and then your hand isn't as likely to be shaky. And you don't need to have the image be identical to what the stamp is. The beauty of doodling is that you can change it however you like. I'm not really going to worry about this part because I'll be cutting it out. But this is an older stamp by Basic Gray. I think it's discontinued. But I purchased some royalty-free butterflies, digital ones, in case anybody wants to print out a similar butterfly to try this, so that I could share them with you. And as you can see, it's just doodling, but you don't have to invent the image in your mind because it's already been created by the person who created the stamp. And you can change it however you like. These are going to be circles instead. And you can even go over the inked area because it's a light ink. And I'm going to use some gel pen later in this area to make it white again. It's kind of meditative, and you don't have to really think about it. Just follow the lines. And something else that helps when you're doodling is that you can turn your image to make it easier to reach the areas that you want to doodle in. And another really nice thing is that it's so forgiving because if you decide you don't like a whole section, you can just erase it. Of course, you could use a smaller eraser so you don't erase as much. But even the Prismacolor pencil will erase, so it's very forgiving. Now that I'm done coloring and cutting, I'll just stick a pin through there for the body of the butterfly. A little gem pin. There. And give the butterfly wings a little bit of shape. And there you have it. To do this background for the card, I stamped the Sweet Threads stamp from this basic gray Hero Art set repeatedly on a piece of basil taffy cardstock with Frostwhite pigment ink. And then I did the same process where I just traced with Prismacolor pencil crayon, and I found the eraser was really helpful to fix up my mistakes. But of course, there's all kinds of ways that you could interpret this particular technique. I also used Color Box white ink on some gray cardstock, and then I used different colored pencil crayons to trace around it and made this particular card. You can do the same thing with die cut images to add more dimension to them. I just traced this one around in pencil. It's a Hero Art Thank You die. And then I put it on top of watercolored paper that I had done with Distress paints. This is just a simple rainbow background that I did an Impression Obsession chevron stamp and then colored in a rainbow of Prismacolor pencils, just traced the stamp every other chevron so it wasn't as busy. And you can even do it with patterned papers. I wanted this patterned paper to have a little more dimension, so I added silver Prismacolor pencil, and it doesn't smudge. It just traced around and doodled around the image to give it more definition. I also used the silver pencil crayon to trace inside of a Cuttlebug embossed piece of paper. So just trace these circles. And this is sort of like a really relaxed, sketchy style. It's not perfect. It's more of that earthy, kind of messy, sloppy fun style. If you have an image like this Hero Arts newspaper skyline that's more architectural, you can use a ruler. I did a lot of this sketching by hand with a pencil, but then I used a ruler, and I split the image to make the buildings longer for an A2 card. But probably my favorite one is with transfer paper. And if you're not familiar with this, you can find it in art stores or hobbyist stores, and it's just basically a piece of paper that is like the old copy paper for typewriters, where on the back it's got kind of a dusty ink, and then you can lay it over something and draw, and the pressure transfers the dusty color to your paper. This one's white, but it also comes in black and I imagine other colors. In this case, I used a Hero Arts stamp, and I traced it. I stamped it in any old ink, and then I traced it onto here, and it transferred the white. But you can also use the black. This is the black version. Stamped and traced in pen, in this case, onto here, and that'll give you even more crisp lines. But it just makes it like it looks like you've drawn it by hand, but I couldn't draw this by hand if I tried, so I cheated. Other things you can do. I just got some white washi tape, and this is a piece of acetate to keep it from sticking to the paper to make it usable later. But you can take a Sharpie or other permanent pens and use a a piece of digital paper or pattern paper as a guide to do your own hand-drawn washi tape. Of course, you could be tidier than I am, but you get the idea. And this is a piece that I did in different colors where I split the image up and traced a very light digital printed pattern in 3 different colors of pencil crayon, Prismacolor pencil crayon. And of course, you could just do a background in plain pencil. A nice little pile of stuff going here. This one was originally just stamped in white, and then it gives it more definition and interest to trace it in pencil. And that is traced doodling. I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching.